Hey, this is Nathan Young, founder and author of How to Be Second. And this is 1 Second, a conversation between two people with wildly different identities, reacting raw to questions from people like you, and exploring how we are different while embracing that we're better together. In our vernacular at How to Be Second, I am a second, and my co host, Aramondo Davison, is a natural one I see. Enjoy. I'm going to get right into it. Our first question today is, what is good? This isn't my question. We finally have people who are like listening to the pod going, I want you guys to react to my question, which is awesome. Freaking awesome. Their question, what is good? There's not a lot more context around this, but I do think what I would love to hear is like a personal, professional. I don't think it was like an ethical question, right? Like like what do you think is morally good? So more of like on the personal, professional side. And if that strays into the ethical, like I'm not going to hold you back, but I think it's from that perspective of professionally as you're developing things, like as you're helping people understand what they should be building, as you're building things, as you're developing yourself personally, how do you know like what is good? And I'll lob that over to you.
Yeah, now that I had a quick second to reflect on the question, I think there is something very specific about like the quality of character. And it actually probably does like sprinkle into morality a little bit. When I think about good, I immediately go to the good guy in the story. And so, growing up, superhero fanboy, I'm like, is it Superman good? Is it Captain America good? Now, as an adult, I'm like, is it Ted Lasso good? Right? There are just certain characters in stories where you're like, that's good. Oh, that's Cinderella level good. And so, my belief is there are certain humans, I'll take myself, right? A natural one I see. I don't want to project into all one I sees, but for me,
Yeah.
like goodness, I believe was my core competency. Like, is God going to be like, what you just did is good? Like now I was always like measuring myself against other characters or other people. Like, is that good? Not on what I produce, because I always felt like what I did, whether it was sports or business, whatever, I just had this unwavering confidence that everything I did was dope. And that could just be an over inflated ego. But on the flip side, I was just like, even though this is dope, like, is it good? Like, is it morally good? Because I could manipulate somebody into doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing and being like, yo, that was some really good manipulation. But like really reflecting and being like, that's, I would have to check myself. And so honestly, like I know you said personally and professionally, for me as a natural one I see, goodness kind of stops at character. And I say that because I don't know, I kind of just look at the world like art. And so I'm gonna create something and it's gonna be dope to me and it's gonna be good to somebody else. It might be good to two
Yeah.
people, it might be good to 200 million. So yeah, there's a lot of subjective in good to me, but I imagine it's a little bit different for you given your gifts in the world.
Well, I think so. Let me push in on this one aspect of what you're saying for just a second. And that's like, so you played basketball for a long time and you were like into it, right? As you were, as you were developing, right? Like as what I guess drove you? Was it more of like an inner sense of, I know I want to be great. And so like, how did you know what great was?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, great to me and goodness are starkly different in my opinion. And I think the first book I ever read cover to cover was Good to Great. I don't even remember it now, but like it was the first thing where it intrigued me. And so I was like, oh, okay. You're creating this separation of these two very definitive words. And so I think I create this separation. So when I go back to sports, it's like, what's the greatest anchor of greatness, right? At the time, it was Michael Jordan, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, then it turned into Kobe. So like my work ethic was always, well, this is the thing that I'm not going to be able to touch. I'm not going to be able to beat Jordan because I'm not 6'6".
Mm,
So like, cool. I
Hmm.
I don't have to match his good or greatness because that's not how I'm set up. However, my good and greatness may be like right next door to him, and it's just like, oh man, a 6'2" guard with this team that he has, like he is great too. And so I don't know. I just always looked at the best, but I never. This is super interesting, and there's a small nuance, and I think this is really important. I never ever ever wanted to like be somebody else. Like never in my life was I like I would switch lives with that person. Like, I was like my life was always dope. However,
Yeah.
their accomplishments, the things that they did where others were like, he is the best at that thing. I aspired for that. And so goodness was just uh, a measuring stick for the direction that I needed to go to become the best or to become the
This
greatest.
is okay. This is all really interesting to me. So, as is typical, I'm going to take this and react to it wildly different. I thought it was going to be more different. Once again, I think we're actually in surprising alignment. We would take wildly different routes to get there. When I see this and it's like, okay, what is good? Personally, professionally, whatever, like, how do you know what good is? I've talked about this idea of knowing what 10 is before. And I feel like that aligns to what you said when you're like, well, I knew that Jordan was the best. Something that I find fascinating, though, in how you describe that is if I looked at Jordan, I would be like, okay, emulate everything about that. You looked at it and said right away, you went, well, there are talents, things that you're born with that I cannot replicate. He's 6'6", so that's just off the table. I wouldn't have registered that. Like the talent differential, right? Like I'm not 6'6" either, but somehow I wouldn't register that in my like, well, that's what 10 is. And so what that means is I have to emulate all of that right away. Is like instinctively, you know, that can't ever exactly be you. I somehow don't register
That's
that.
super
And
interesting. Okay.
so I'm just like, well, that's the definition of a 10, right? On a scale of 10, what does it mean to be a true 10 at something? And okay, it's Jordan. And that also was true for me. If somebody had asked me, like, what is a 10 in basketball, right? I cheered for the Bulls. I grew up near Chicago. So, like, what else was I going to do,
Right,
right?
right.
So, like, I knew what 10 was in that realm right away. Okay, it's Jordan. But what you said so many things around that. You're like, well, it's Jordan who has these natural things that nobody else can have: height. He has a team around him who also look like this. And yet, and so like, it was just fascinating that you kind of looked at the work as though almost you didn't look at the work. You were kind of like, well, it's these achievements along the way. Like these are the milestones. So now I want to go do the work to emulate those milestones to get to achieve those things for myself in my way, but I won't be that person.
Yeah.
I do not register that thing that way. And some of this I think is like my personality layer on top of just this secondness. So I would look at that and go, Jordan is a 10. And then I would sort of backtrack. Realistically, not, I don't even know if I would backtrack the milestones. I would probably backtrack the effort. And I would go, okay, well, to be the best, then what I need to do is I need to shoot 1,000 free throws every, like these are the inputs that I need. And the output of the definition of 10 is looks like this. And whether or not I can be on a professional team in the NBA, I need to be able to perform at this level in order to carry that around with me, to be a 10 independently as myself. I would say the exact same thing if somebody asked me like what is good in chess. I'd be like, well, Magnus Carlsen, that's the definition of that, or Hikaru, right? I'd be like, okay, that's what good is. Now, what did they do to become good? I would just completely glaze over their Bobby Fischer-ness, right? I'd just be like, well, they're a savant, so that's first thing, and then go, well, yeah, but aside from that, what's the what's the stuff that I can do, right? and sort of forget the talent pieces, the stuff that I don't necessarily have. And I would just go after like the inputs. Now, of course, you can do that. I mean, because you can't change the talent part. But I would say that's how I define like what is good is I go hunt something that someone that I would consider excellent has already done. And I would take what I feel like is their best work, Starry Night, Van Gogh, right? The Mona Lisa. And I would go, that's good. That's what's good. So
Do you not?
that sets the bar. Yeah.
I have a question. All right.
Yeah.
So for me, when I hear that's good and then I hear great, it automatically registers a tad bit higher on the totem pole than good.
Yeah.
Is that then different for you? Because you're like, well, if the Mona Lisa is good, is there a great piece of art?
I think in my head until this question there has not been just right.
Okay.
Like I would have said that's good. It's 10 and 10 is done.
Got it. Got it.
And I reacting to it now, right? Because I'm unpacking this as I go. I would say I'm recognizing that some of the crazy that I have lived through in my life has been the tension of things changing over time because there are people who are pursuing great and they take the Mona Lisa as a benchmark or like a milestone now. And I would say that it's usually people like yourself who would go, well, those aren't the things that I naturally have, but I want to be great. So I will use this as a guidepost, but not a destination. Jordan would have been a guidepost, not an end point for you.
Okay, this is really good. I have some deeper questions. Let's go this way first. So I'm and I believe you are a healthier version of yourself, myself, than we were, let's just say 15 years ago when sports was still like at the top of my desire.
Yeah.
Greatness always surpass goodness. Now that I have a more balanced relationship with God, when you read Genesis, God's creating stuff in 7 days and says that's good. And so, like, hearing you say this from your perspective, and then I'm reflecting, like, well, Nathan has been reading the word since he's been how old, like 10 or something?
Yeah. Earlier than that, I guess.
So it's like, all right, he started reading the word. And in the beginning, God created and this was good. God created and this was good and this was good. Well, I imagine your subconscious is like, well, yeah, good is 10. Like that's what I'm hearing now. And so like you're always creating this matrix, like if you're 10 out of 10, that's good. And when I hear that now, I say, well, good then is imperfectly perfect. Does that word resonate with you? Imperfectly perfect.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think that's some of the tension that I was feeling even as I was describing my reaction, right? Is that I was like, wait, I'm starting to recognize in this moment that you have a thing as a guidepost that I may have accidentally put as an end point. And the tension of being like, but I've always known it wasn't an end point. I even like to call like there's a phrase best practice, this idea of best practice. And I've always called best practice the best theory. Cause I'm like, as soon as a person comes up with a better way to do something, that will be the best way.
Yeah, for sure.
And it is inherently temporary. So it's the best way until another person comes up with another new, better way.
100. Yeah. Spot on.
Right. So I'm like, well, best practice is just best theory we have right now for like, that's actually what that means. So perfectly imperfect is like, or imperfect, well, like however
Yeah, yeah.
whichever one was first or second, I don't remember. But that idea, I think, is the most resonant with me now that I'm digging into this. And I think something in my self desperately craves this for two reasons that I can say out loud right now. Maybe I'll come up with reasons 3, 4, and 5 later. But the it's probably the same part of me that wants to put this into two reasons in a grid. And the first one is like because I want to know. Because I want there to be a finite something that I can grasp and know what I'm right. I want some certainty in it. And the second reason is because I want to be able to deliver something. Because inherently, like, I want to support or work towards something, or like I'm trying to bring things into being, right? And if I'm putting my effort towards something, I want to understand that that effort isn't wasted. But I actually think the idea that that effort isn't wasted is hovering up my fear. And my fear is that I'm going to deliver something that isn't good. And so I want to know what good is because I want to do a good job.
Wow. Yo, that's so fascinating because when you have this anchor of goodness, because that then is like this certain destination and everything revolves around that. Where my mind, if we use Jordan as an anchor of goodness, my mind was like, I couldn't dream past Jordan. I couldn't see past that. However, now I'm like, oh, the 6'2" version of me who was able to see past that was Steph Curry.
Mm.
And so he's just like, I can't be Jordan. However,
Yeah.
yo, behind this 3-point line, I am a problem for
Right.
everybody. Right. And so it's just like he created his own lane. And so to me, he extended what goodness could look like. And then people would argue LeBron. And I don't know if somebody's listening to this, they're like, why you didn't talk about these other people? But like to me, in the same way that Jordan changed the game of basketball playing above the rim, Steph Curry changed the game of basketball playing beyond the arc. And like
Oh, yeah.
both of those humans completely transformed the game of basketball in a way that was suited to their natural gifts. And for me, no matter what I do for the rest of my life, I feel like I want my legacy to be, well, Mondo did a Jordan thing or a Steph Curry thing or whatever. Like he was part of a team that
Mhm.
completely shifted a standard or created a new good theory that people followed for 20 years. And so
Right.
that's definitely part of like something that I truly desire.
Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to put this one down here.
Hold on. Actually, I do have one more question if you're okay with
No,
this.
do it. Do it. Yeah.
The one thing that's interesting to me that I'm now curious about is how, I want to say this the right way, how then do you position yourself now as a thought leader in the second seat? Because I imagine leading up to this point, there were a lot of good tens. And so now, do you comfortably say, like, I am also a 10? Or is that just not part of the story yet? I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I left a voice message to someone yesterday. And in that message, I was giving like a directive, like, I want to do things this way. And I want to make sure that you know this. I was leaving them a message about like stuff that was happening personally in my life. And I was letting them know, hey, this wasn't how this was modeled for me, to like constantly keep people who are working with you up on what's going on in your personal life. And that I think is a mistake. And then I said, and I am the model. And so I want to make sure to do this. And I stopped immediately. And I was like, no, no, no. I am not the model. Delete that I ever said. And so here I am memorializing this idea. I've owned this concept in somewhere in my brain that I'm like, shit, people are going to emulate me
Correct.
as what 10 is. And that scares the living F out of me.
Wow.
Oh my God, I cannot. And so like, so there's some of that. So apparently it's in there. The other thing I want to throw at this is I have started picking people and going, I like that. I like that very much. And I don't know how to be that in our space, but whatever that looks like here is yes. And so, like, I relentlessly put links, even in our emails. I just did this in this past Wednesday when I wrote the email this week. And I put multiple links to this group called dropout.tv. And the CEO of Dropout Sam Reich, and then like the most popular, I think, person within that sphere of that is Brennan Lee Mulligan. And I'm just like, what they're doing as humans with their platform and their people and their stuff. I'm like, I don't know what that exactly looks like, but the spirit of that, we're going in that direction. And I am recognizing as I am saying this that I did not say they are what 10 is. I said
Mm.
they are a flag along the way. And I did not even realize I had made this leap somewhere.
Yo, that was such a dope response. And one, I'm just gonna say, yes, you are the model. Or
Ah,
yeah, you know it in there. And it's like it then becomes the new theory, right? And so I'm saying this out loud just because this conversation is going in this direction. In business, for the most part, I feel like it's always about the one, the natural one I see, the person in the front that's championing something. And what I feel like is going to be super dope and unique about how this story unfolds is what will be new in our journey is the dynamic duo relationship. And it's just like, oh, their story is about the two of them
yes.
being fully balanced and doing a thing together. And then that becomes the new standard. Like, to me, everybody is looking around like, well, I have to find my second, or second's like, I have to find my one. And then when you, to your language, right? When the foundation is we have to come together or we're better together, I feel like the world as a whole just starts to shift. Because a lot of the times that person who is that perfect match for you to do it together is the complete opposite, or they come from a background that's so starkly different. And then that becomes the beauty. It's just like, yo, these humans broke through all the social norms, all the expectations on how you're supposed to be separate, all the classism, all the racism. They got through all that and they found each other. And because they did that, because they were guided by faith, because they loved humanity, they loved themselves, they found each other, and now they're sitting in seats to be models for others. And I just think it's going to be a dope story.
I'm in for writing it. I'm in for reading it while we write it. I'm in.
Uh,
All right, I'll try one more time. I'll put this down here
yeah.
and I'll hand it to you to kick us off for the back half.
Yeah. All right. Here's this question. Here's a question that I've read, and I'm like, this looks like an interesting question. And I don't even know how I'm going to answer it. And so I'm not going to give any context first. I'm just going to say it out loud, Nathan, and please take it in a direction, and then I'll piggyback in some way. But
Yeah.
the question, the outside question is, unpack, when do you see, and where your sweet spot is on a timeline.
Okay. I'm ready to go on this.
You got it. Take it away.
This is actually part of what helped us when we were writing How to Be Second to understand some of the distinctions between what was going on. So it is a theory. It's a best theory. So someone else would make this better. Effectively, people have talked a lot about these ideas of like short-term thinking and long-term thinking. And everyone wants you to be more of a long-term thinker, right? Strategy is the cotton candy word of the moment. And everybody wants to be like, oh, strategic this, strategic that. Are you thinking strategically? First of all, I'm like, that's not what that means. Second of all, if everything is strategy, then what is anything else, right?
Right.
Like everything can't be strategy. That's not how that works. So this comes back to like the when do you see question. And everyone who wants to be like long term. And I'm like, right, but you have to do things today. And even if I perceive, even if I'm like, I'm competent at this. Okay, cool. You want me to think about like what's going on in 10 years? Sure, no problem. But my question then becomes, do I care about what's going on in 10 years? And some people, actually many people I've worked with, and I would say this tends to be a one IC type trait. And that is one ICs can feel insane to us in the day to day because it seems like they're being so, it seems like they have two modes. And the first one is to be hyper pedantic, like about every tiny little detail, every word, every, is this thing lined up to that thing? Is the customer experience exactly this way? Did you say exactly these words to that person during the discovery call? Did you, whatever? And oftentimes we're like, that's not part of the system at all. And they're like, but you're not, imagine that being part of the system, right? And and then they also have a different gear, and that is moonshot.
Yep.
And they're like, this is the future. We're going to be driving these cars. And by driving, what I mean is flying. And they're going to be on Mars. And we're going to be flying the cars between the skyscraper, the tunnels on Mars. And so that means we have to do the tunnels. And that's why you needed to say this sentence today on the call. And I'm like, what? and and so the idea behind when do you see is not the question of like, can you be a long-term thinker? Yes, of course, everyone has the competence to become a long-term thinker. You can train this competence. But what you have innately, obviously, I'm very like passionate about this idea. What you have innately is what is freaking you out when you wake up in the morning. If you set up a to-do list and it was like today's activities and then tomorrow's and then next week's to-dos and then 90 days from now's to-dos and then a year from now to-dos and then 3 and 5 and 10 year from now to-dos and then like the idea of legacy. So now you're thinking post-death to-dos, which is ridiculous, but it is a thing that some people focus on completely, right? They wake up every day and they go, what really matters is what happens in 50 years after I die.
Mm.
That's what really matters to me. It's what I wake up being worried about. And that's the idea behind when do you see is it's not this idea of are you capable of long-term thinking? It's what freaks you out when you wake up.
Yeah.
Is it the stuff that's going to transpire in the world in 3 months? Or is it what the world looks like in 2 or 3 or 10 years? When do you see? When is the pressure of the future bearing down on you? That's a lot. And just so you know, to answer the back question, when is your sweet spot on a timeline? Mine is like 5 or 6 months. I wake up having a really hard time doing my tasks for the day if I feel like 6 months from now is in danger.
Hmm.
And the stuff that I feel like needs to be true about the future in 6 months, if today's tasks don't reflect movement on that thing, then I really struggle getting my task list done because I'm like, who cares about this thing? Don't you understand that in February of 2026, this happens? What are we doing for that?
Yeah.
It makes other people around me crazy.
Yo, this is you. One, I want to say you've really helped me enjoy this question because I also have a very strong opinion on this question
Mm,
now.
mm.
Here's where I don't even know. This is so fascinating to me. So the question, I'm reading it right now. It's when do you see, and then where's your sweet spot on the timeline? And the reason why I just couldn't even interpret the question is because to me, the word when and when do you see, for some reason, like where is supposed to be there. Like,
Mm.
and it's exactly what you just said. Like where is your telescope pointing on the timeline that you see clearly?
Yes.
And so now that you say that the way that you did, which I'm like, oh, you painted the picture perfect, so I don't have to repaint that picture. My where on the timeline is 15-minute increments, which is so different than the last version of myself.
Yeah.
Right? So before, to your point, it was, what is this thing far out when I die? What is all the things I'm going to leave behind? All this stuff, right? Like super visionary, let's get to the moon, all that stuff. But now I'm like, you brought up chess earlier. If you're like, I'm about to beat Mondo in chess with this chess strategy, and you've already predetermined your entire strategy, and then I come out and I make this move, and you're like, well, can't use that strategy anymore, right? Like, I feel like that is the world in front of you. Like, it doesn't matter how you think you're gonna get to Mars. I feel like going in that direction, that way, going to Mars is just pointing in the direction that you're supposed to go. You may not even supposed to get to Mars. However, all the people that you are supposed to cross paths with, to pour into, to build relationships with, to help, to support, to serve, all your people are going to be on the path on the yellow brick road that way. And so for me, when I say 15-minute increments, it's actually more like 22 minutes. I say like, yo, I live my life a sitcom at a time. Because I'm like, if I sit down and I watch a sitcom, there's some dope lesson at the end of that 22 minutes, or I feel good, or I have a takeaway. And so I'm like, every person that I'm in front of, I want to make this 22 minutes really good. I either want to take away something or I want to give something of value that they take away something. And so now when I think about you and I, and you're like, all right, I need to lock down 6 months. So if I'm like, all right, Nathan, that way. And you're like, I think I see a 6-month flag. Can we point at that? I'm like, sure. And as long as you're building out a system and I'm doing my 22-minute sitcoms, I feel like we're going to have an epic experience going in that direction. But inevitably, I feel like there's going to be a sharp pivot. Like, it's just like we went in that direction and served as many people as we were supposed to serve. And then like we pivot and it's just like, all right, well, there's another 6-month flag. We good? Yep. And man, we just like have this experience where there is no 27-year plan, but man, we're like serving so many people and changing lives 6 months at a time in 22-minute increments that like life is just glorious.
I hope other people are able to lean into this idea that when I first started explaining this, I basically said that one ICs, Mondo is our model in this case, have two sort of like speeds, and that is forever and right now.
Yeah,
And I feel like what you just described is that you are a more mature version of still forever and right now.
for sure. For
Right?
sure.
You've stopped being so pedantic about this one very particular thing. And now you're like, it's 22 minutes at a time, right? I live life as a sitcom at a time. So your structure has like a little bit different and it lets you flow a little better. It lets you get a little less hung up on whatever, right? And at the same time, you have that like, here's what's going on right now in front of me. And I want to live in this moment and honor what's going on. And also that way.
Yeah. Yo, when I think about you and I, honestly, I think a lot about Mission Impossible. I think we talked about this before, but it's like when Tom Cruise goes out to do the impossible mission and his second Luther has created all the tools, all the plans, all the whatever, it's like, I'm going to go 22 minutes. And if for some reason I get to minute 37, I know Nathan has already qualified whatever he could qualify to make sure I'm safe in this extra time, right? Or in my 22 minutes or in the 2 days. Like, you have already done so much work that I just have to be focused on right now because your gift is the 6-month plan or the 3-month plan or whatever it is. And so, man, I just love how we both sit in our own sweet spot and we trust each other, and you continue to build the system. I continue to build the story one sitcom at a time. And I think now my language that's so different is, oh yeah, and then Mondo, give the glory to God, right? Because if I'm like, I'm doing all this in service to guide people towards Christ, like that's what every 22-minute sitcom is actually about. Doesn't mean we're talking about Jesus, but it's just like, am I pointing you in a direction that's healthier, that's more balanced, that's more sound? And as long as I do that, I feel like God is going to continue to open up doors or bless us with more resources or put us in more environments because he's like, oh, you guys did it over here in the community? Oh, okay. Well, now I'm going to have you do it in the state. Oh, now I'm going to have you do it across the world, or now I'm going to have you do it all the way to Mars or whatever it is, right?
Here, I think, again, like part of the reason we did this thing in this idea and had this conversation, partially because it felt fun as hell. I was like, oh, this is one of my best friends and I want to have this conversation. And he's this best relationship that I have in this way. And like, yeah, let's get into a room and just like do this. But then also, again, sort of as the model of like, this is literally what that can look and feel and sound like. For a tactical example, yesterday, the second episode, we're recording the third episode right now. Yesterday, the second episode released. And I sent a text to Mondo to be like, hey man, new eps dropping today, whatever, just like as a confirm. And he went, oh, every other week on Wednesdays, release schedule. Like he didn't know. I knew. I had the 6-month system. He was just like, is the next session on the calendar? It is. Let's show up and do the right. Like he was completely loyal to doing the thing, to living in the space. I had the plan, and then he just absolutely trusted me for that plan for this podcast. And then I was like, oh yeah, episodes dropped, like dropped in the details, and he, oh, okay, I see the plan. Cool, we're moving in the direction. I got my part, you got your part, right? I was like, oh right.
Yo, oh, right. Oh, right. And how awesome is that, right? So, like earlier, Nathan said, hey, there's something about if I'm not comfortable or I feel unsafe if I don't have enough understanding for this 6-month arc, which awesome, right? I don't feel fulfilled if I'm not living in some type of uncertainty. Life feels a little boring and bland. So like, so when you're like, I'll take care of all the stuff, and Mondo, I'll just tell you on the day or right before we come on and talk, or like in our one-on-ones every week, however that unfolds, right? I'm like, all right, bet. And then I step into that uncertainty because like that's fun to me, because for me, that's when I'm like, all right, God, how are you going to use me in this environment? I'm not coming in with my own predisposed things that like have to happen, right? You just threw me in here and like work with me, work through me. And like that is just so fun to me. Oh, yes, and I know I have to bring Nathan back this one piece. Nathan's like, go in there and get that one relationship. And I'm like, cool. All right, I got the one thing. All right, I'll go do that. And then I'll go do the rest of the work. And so, man, if you're a one IC and you're looking to grow and these words that I'm saying make you feel uncomfortable, one, I would say like, I challenge you to lean into that uncertainty a little bit more. Trust that second in command. And you got to lean into your faith to do it. It is the only way, right? You have to trust that your version of Nathan has as much of the puzzle as he can possibly have set for you. And then God has the rest, right? And it's your responsibility to just go in and do the work. It's all trust and self-awareness and confidence in the story's just going to work out eventually in your favor. May not be right now, hence Ted Lasso. It took 3 seasons for him to take L's until he won a championship. But like, if he would have won the first season, it would have been a whack show, right? And so it's just like, yo, trust the process, trust the story.
I love it. I think we're going to honor our 2-question system and go, well, we've lived 2 sitcoms. Let's like, this is it. We're done.
Perfect. Let's go.
Hey, it's Nathan again. If you made it to the end, that's awesome. I have a couple ways you can go deeper if you're interested. If you resonated with the way that Nathan talked about himself and how he sees the world, Nathan is me, you might be what we call a second, which is an identity, not a role. We have a couple ways to dig into that curiosity. You can take our Am I a Second assessment on our website or howtobesecond.com/assessment. You can grab the book, How to Be Second, from our website or Amazon or almost anywhere you like to buy books, including on audio. If you resonated with Mondo, or you'd like to resonate that way, but you're feeling stuck, you can find Mondo on LinkedIn by searching for Aramondo. That's Aramondo. Mondo deploys his natural one-IC-ness to support people who are stuck in themselves and their thinking to break through towards their biggest ideas and their self. in a casual setting like a walk or a phone call. If you're inspired by what we're doing here, you can support How to Be Second at howtobesecond.com/support. Thanks again. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.